original settlers, but I'll overcome that by coming to more and more of these family meetings that we do have, and being able to show my children and my grandchildren what they must have been like. Appreciate the chance to come down here, and I hope to support many more meetings that we're going to have, and I hope to keep it up in the near future. Thank you very much.
Laura Breden is a third-generation Norwegian.
My dad and Uncle Howard are afraid of water, especially of bath water. My brother and I have overcome this fear, and we love water. Let me see here. The thing I like about older Norwegian is they say hilarious jokes. My dad makes me laugh a lot.
Some of you have seen it, but we've put together a Hans Ole Breden newsletter. There are copies at the back. We put it together in the hope, as my dad said, of attempting to fill in some of the blanks. But those of you that haven't read it, I'll just quickly go through some of the key points from his Hans family. He was born on July 6, 1887, which interestingly, in a few days, it would have been 100 years old. He came over at age, we're not sure, maybe 14 or 18. 14 it appears today. He stayed with an aunt when he came over, and not only worked but also went to school. Of course, at 14 or 18, at grade 1, that was suffered a severe amount of embarrassment and ribbing by the other children, but he stuck with it, and in fact eventually taught English in some of the Norwegian schools that were set up. We understand that he then arranged for the rest of the family to come to the United States, and as you know, by 1908, Alfred was in fact born in the United States. In 1912, his company required him to move to Alberta, and he did. He met his wife Emma, our grandmother, and they were married in 1914. Dad just mentioned that Hans had been decorated by the King of Norway. He was also a very well-known businessman in Alberta. He had been on the board of directors of various associations. He was very active in the United Church. While Dad and Don and Howard and Jerry were here, they also had a small daughter named Adeline Marie, who was born in 1915, but who died in 1917 or 18 as a victim of a worldwide flu epidemic. Hans died in October 8, 1953, and is buried in Wetaskiwin, Alberta. And our grandmother and his wife Emma was also from Norwegian family. They had emigrated or moved over to Idaho, and from there up to Alberta. She herself was a wonderful person. When she was 90 years old, she had a large birthday party. All her sons, most of her grandchildren, great-grandchildren came. And I think Father mentioned last night that the Queen of England, the Prime Minister of Canada, King of Norway, even Ronald Reagan sent congratulations. She died in 1984. So that's just some of the early history. And again, as I say, there are copies at the back, and if there's any ideas that you have or other information, we sure appreciate hearing it. Again, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to send greetings and congratulations to the Breden family on the occasion of this first ever reunion. I am a big fan of reunions. They provide a wonderful opportunity to strengthen family ties and renew the connections that are so important in our lives. I hope this proves to be just one such an opportunity for all of you, and that it will be the first of many successful and memorable events. Signed, George Sinner, Governor of the State of North Dakota.
I come as a wife. Oh, this is tough. Hey, you know what? We have to follow Hans's family. Oh, this is good. They were so good. They were really good. Yeah. You gotta know something about our dad.
Well, as you know, my dad was in the service too with Siebert. And how he met my mother was, my mother's brother, which they had about 6 or 7 sisters, and there was one son, and they were over in France together, and Emo Kildy was dead. He died over there. And when he came back and took his possessions back to the Kildy family, and Siebert, of course, after Anton went down there a few times, and Siebert started going with him. And then they ended up with 2 Kildys. And then one of the other Bredens went down there, and old Grandma Kildy says 2 Bredens is enough. And she wouldn't let him go out anymore, so I thought that was kind of interesting. From there, they moved to North Dakota, and they did some farming up here, and it wasn't too good. And then they went back because Grandpa Kildy wasn't feeling too good, so they went back there again, and they lived there for a while. They lost the first house, burnt down, and they moved to another farm. And from there, they lost the farm during the Depression. And I was about 10, 11 years old. We moved back to Alexandria, Minnesota with the encouragement from Sina and Jess Wood. So we ended up here around Alexandria, Minnesota for a couple of years. Then we went back to Wisconsin again, and with various jobs from there. I guess that's about. Can you add something to that, Willie?
No, I can't really remember all the things. We never had him long enough on this earth. See, we were pretty young when he died. He died at 62, and we really was too young to ask the questions we should have. You know, we were. Now I got a million questions, but it's too late. But I was the oldest, and probably I was 20. Al, you were what, 18, 14, and then while we had a sister, she might have asked him more, but they were hard people to talk to. You know, you could ask them a question, and they'd never tell you. And that's the way it was with my dad. And he would meet with his brothers. They'd talk to Norwegian, and we could hear a few things. And you know, if we understood it, but if we asked him right outright, how did you come here? What ship did you come to the island? I'd like to know that, but I don't know. But I don't think he would tell us. I don't know. He was an easygoing man. He never disciplined us. My mother had to do that. I don't think, did he ever? He never yelled at us, and he was kind of easygoing. I don't know what else I can say. We got some other brothers and sisters. I wish they were here. They just leave us. We're totally unprepared. We come out here and we didn't know we were going to have to do this. I was scared to death. And I'm with Braden's. Hey, you follow Hans's group. Hey, they were so great and give us so much. And we come along, like Anton's kids come along, and we just totally unprepared. We never had dates, and I've never done this in my life. I've never talked to the microphone. I'm scared of it. But
Hans is always talking, married an English lady, not Englishman. My wife is English, but there's 2 kinds of people in the world. I don't know if you know it or not. There's a Norwegian and then people I wish they were.
I don't know what else. Anybody got any questions you want to ask? Okay, go ahead. Oh yeah, they should have been up here. Jolie and Tim and Allie and Pat's family. We should have. Hey, you guys. Yeah, now I feel better because you guys got anything to say, Tom? You want Tom?
Yeah, come on,
Hey,
Tom.
help us out.
Tom's got a letter, a couple years ago, he wrote over to Norway, and he got a letter from some Bredens over there. He'd like to read it.
If you'll bear with me here. I was interested, like everybody else, in learning a little bit about our family history, and it seems like there's a dead end as we get to the stage of coming over to Norway. And I wanted to know a little bit more about it. So what I did is took a blind guess and looked in a book of Norwegian place names. All the farms there in Norway are named after people, the name, and you take the name of the farm when you move on to it, and if you move to a different farm, you take a new last name. So I wrote to the Breden farm, two Breden farms in Gudbrandsdalen Valley, the South District in Norway, and I got two letters back, one from a Knut Breden and one from a Frederick Breden. And I'll read a portion of the letter I got. This is about 5 years ago that I got this letter from Knut Breden. It says, Tom Breden, we have gotten a letter from you and see that you would willingly want to give information about your family in Norway. We want to help you as much as we can. My father, Knut Breden, is 87 years old. He has gone to school together with your grandfather, Anton Olsen, and remembers your grandfather and remembers your great-grandparents, Ole Hansen and Aslaug, your great-great-grandparents, Ole Hansen, and your great-great-grandparents, Hans and Britt Nepperud. It is my father who tells me what to write. Hans Nepperud married to Britt, who was born Haugen. Their children are Ole Hansen, your great-grandfather, Hans, who was a very fine shoemaker and traveled to Oslo and took an apprenticeship there. He was married to a nurse, Matilda. Ragnhild, we think that she came to America and got married there. Ole Hansen married to Aslaug. Their children are Hans, Anton, Henrik, Olaf, Siver, a girl who was named Hansina, Ole Hansen, and had a son. Ole Hansen had a son before he was married. This boy was born in 1877. He was also called Hans. His descendants live here in the community. Hans and Britt Nepperud had a tenant farm, which was called Nepperud, and it laid high up in the mountainside. It was approximately 10 maal, and that's a unit of measure in Norway. I think it's about 3 or 4 acres, I'm not sure though, of cultivated earth. They could feed 2 cows, some sheep, and a pig. They had no road and had to carry everything up, but it was sure that they were fine people that managed with what they had. The tenant farm Nepperud belonged to the farm Breden, the farm we have today. I can mention that Britt was a sister to my great-grandfather, so we are also related. Ole Hansen traveled out and helped build the railroad. There he met his Aslaug, who was from Hallingdal. With her, they had 6 children. They were also tenant farmers on the farm Nepperud, but they were hard times. It was a toil with poverty, and many left for America. Ole Hansen, the oldest son, and Hans traveled first, probably to relatives. 2 years later, they had earned so much money that the rest of the family could come afterwards. They traveled, probably to America, about 1903 to 1905. When Ole Hansen traveled out, he took the name Breden. There is no agriculture today in Nepperud. It has been sold to a doctor from Oslo. He has it as a vacation place, but it has been good to restore all the houses there. There is yet no road to the farm. Nepperud lies in the Cell community in Gudbrandsdalen. The community has about 6,000 inhabitants. The nearest city is Ota, which has 2,000. Father remembers that Hans worked here on the farm right until he traveled to America. There is someone who asked, what will become of you in America? Either I will become a priest or a beggar, he answered. But how it went in America, you would probably know, and that we would be interested in knowing. So I haven't written back. I wrote back to them. I never got a response back. But I tried to give them as much information that I knew about the family. But I, of course, know very little. And here I've been learning a lot. But I'm sure they'd be interested in hearing. And I have their address if anybody wants to write. I also in the back have pictures of the Nepperud farm that Ole and Aslaug and all the children, Hans, Anton, Henry, Olaf, Sievert, Hansina, Chris, there's all of them, where they had all lived and grew up. So if anybody wants to see those pictures, they're in the back, and also the main Breden farm.
She told me last night, she said, get somebody else up on the floor tonight. She said, you don't have to go up. But here I am. Well, somebody mentioned something about Grandma Breden and Grandma And Grandpa Breden, well, I remember him a little bit, I do. Our grandpa, I remember probably just a little bit. I remember him with a cane. But then he got bedridden, and I think he laid for about 13, 14 years before he passed away. And my grandma, I was along with her lots of times picking plums. We picked plums in the hill lots of times. So I remember them pretty well. And somebody also asked me to say something about Henry. I'm glad you got up and said something. I probably wouldn't have remembered all that. But he did load. He was going up through the sand with a hay load. And what did he do? He comes back and then throws down $1 for me, and me get a big silver dollar in them days. I'll tell you, that was something. So I jumped out of the buggy and picked that thing up in a hurry. I can remember that so plain. That's about all I can remember on that. And he worked for my wife's folks a lot. That he did. He worked on 2 places that I remember. He worked for them a lot. And I guess Elmer wrote down something there I'm supposed to read. I don't know what he understood reading or not, but I'll try my level best. Dad lived in different farms in the Cheyenne Township until 1938 when he bought the farm in Viking Township, where Olaf lives now. That's my little brother lives there. He farmed until he passed away on September 6, 1968 at 74 years old. Our mother, she resided at the same place until 1986 when she moved to the St. Francis home in Breckenridge, Minnesota, where she still resides. Dad was a practical joker. None of us kids took up after him though. And a very fun person. But still very stern, serious at times. Yeah, I know that. His favorite pastime was fishing. He spent every opening fishing day at Strand's Resort by Pelican Rapids, Minnesota. He visited and did a lot of fishing with his brother, Seward. In 1950, our mother and dad and John and Anna Hogan, Mom's sister, spent 3 months in Norway. They went by boat and visited many relatives there. They also attended many Gulbanstars logs. You all know what that is. Gulbanstar, that's where we come from. In numerous places in North Dakota. He enjoyed deer hunting very much. He hunted deer whether it was 10 feet of snow or not, any. Even after 70 years old, he was a crack shot, so says his son-in-law, Glenn, who did a lot of deer hunting with him. Well, I mumbled through that. I'll tell you a fish story. Anybody believe fish stories? Huh? I don't think you do you? Well, I'm going to tell you one that's true. We went up to Canada here, I must have been in the 50s. And we went up in Shell Lake, yeah, we had no trouble going up to Canada fishing. And we caught fish, we got quite a bit of fish. On our way back, you know, we had to stop at custom. Well, they asked you, well, we were American, all of us are American. Well, my dad, he turned that table around, he said Norwegian. We found out what it was to be a Norwegian. They said, you pull up there. They checked our car out. We had an awful time getting out of Canada that day. Yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
I can tell you that my dad was a very easygoing man, and I must say that he never laid a finger on me, but I had great respect for him when he said something, because his favorite thing was, and that's final. And when he said that was final, we knew it was final. But he never laid a finger on me, but that's more than we can say for Olaf. I can remember one particular time. He wanted to go along to town with my mother and dad. And they said he had to stay home. So they went, and Olaf, knowing that they had gone, had a few, or not just few either, quite a few choice words. And before he knew it, my dad walked in the room and had forgot something, and he heard this. And he took Olaf by the leg and by the arm, and into the bedroom they went, and I heard crack, crack, just like that. And then pretty soon we heard, "Vill du ha mer?" That was, "Do you want more?" So, and I'm sure that wasn't the only time that Olaf was scolded a little bit. And then talking about this farm in Norway, 5 years ago we visited Norway, and we visited this home place that he talked about, and it was very interesting to go back there and to see the resemblance of my dad and his brothers. That half brother in Norway looked so much like Hans, and then his grandson, whom we stayed with a week, looked just like my dad. He was a much smaller person, but he had some of the same actions and looked like him, and it was really interesting and kind of funny to see it, you know. And we had a very nice time there, and I guess that's maybe all I got to add to that.
This is my love. Oh, here comes my card. Wes, you get in on. Wes, out. Wes. I didn't forward
Now, when I was courting Betty, one of the places we had to visit when we were driving by Park Rapids was Sievert's old farmstead, because she had such pleasant memories of that, and also of Anna. And apparently, among all the relatives, the Breden-Braden family was well liked. Do we have a representative from Breden?
Ragnar was a very special person too at our house, and we have to remember Ragnar and her sponge cakes that she served every Sunday afternoon. My dad would have been 90 years old last May. He lived to be 78, the oldest of all the family, and we have to remember that the majority of the Bredens died of heart trouble.
Arlene, if I gotta be here, so do you.
I think we should also remember my mom as a very special person, because how many people can come into a house and live with a mother-in-law, a father-in-law, and 3 brothers-in-law that she had to cook and bake and scrub for many, many years. And I can remember that when my mother baked bread, she made homemade bread on a cook stove, and one of the pans made 6 loaves at one time. And it was a 2-room house with a upstairs, just rafters. And I was the first baby born. My grandparents were still living. I was born the 22nd of July upstairs in the heat. And my mother laid up there. My dad always liked to wear a Stetson hat. When they first came over to this country and they went to Iversolians and Martos, my dad first tasted beets and he thought that you should eat them raw like carrots, and he never ate beets after that. He never ate cake because he was served hot cake at Martos, and he didn't like hot cake, but as a special for when we had birthdays, he would eat 1 piece of birthday cake. My dad loved to fish, and they moved from, when we had the Depression, they moved to Park Rapids in 1939, and Anna came along and they moved the pump house, and that was Anna's house near our house. I can remember having a battery radio, but my dad always only could listen to the news, never any programs. There were church services in Norwegian always. I couldn't speak English when I started first grade. The church where the pulpit is now, when I was a little girl, I can remember this great big barrel stove that stood where the pulpit is now. And Norwegian services that you had to sit through that you didn't listen to very well. I can remember the Christmas tree was put up only on Christmas Eve, never before. They rang the church bells at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we could hear it at our house. We had the candles on the Christmas tree with the candle holder, but it was a special occasion when you could go to church on Christmas Eve, and the Christmas tree was lit with electric candles run by battery. I had another story that Sydney said I had to tell, or Sydney wants to tell him. All right. But I can remember my dad going to Detroit Lakes and buying a blue work jacket, and he put it in my car, and somebody stole it. And he never liked Detroit Lakes after that.
This is another one similar to that. Back in the 30s, he bought a can of brake fluid from a gamble store. And shortly after you put the brake fluid in the car, the brakes went out. So after that, he never went into a gamble store again because everything they had in there was just completely rotten. This is the type of person he was. And a fish story, I was going to tell you one here. I was about that big, I suppose, 6 years old maybe. And we were going fishing one day, or we were fishing one day, and I caught a fish, I caught a northern, and I just sucked it hard. Well, I let go and I caught Dad right square between the eyes with the fish hooks. Now you wanted to hear some Norwegian swearing. Now there's, you could have heard something. I knew there was something wrong there. Anyway, we had a good time with our family. Everything was great. Just like all the rest of you, I guess we were poor when we started and poor when we ended. Had a good time. This big, we couldn't go fishing. Everybody else could go fishing. We were too little. And so we'd always get in trouble or do something. And we'd go around the highway and pick up cigarette butts and then go out in the altos. Well, Mother would be in there cooking on the old wooden stove, smoke coming out of the chimney. But you know, there was more smoke coming out of the outhouse than there was out of that chimney.
I will.
But my mother said too, when she baked, she used to put the cookies in the washing machine because she knew they'd never listen there. They never did. We have a whole bunch of people.
Well, I'm going to tell them about some of the uncles that are, and some of the relatives I have. I always start out with Hans. Hans was used to go to Detroit and buy a new car. And I think, 20 to 50 miles from our home, he would stop in and stick his head out the window for the last 50 miles to get his sore throat. Because every time he'd come in there, he'd have a bottle of schnapps. And then Alfred was there one time, and my dad, and he said that was for gargling. And he said it tasted so good, he says, down the hatch. He couldn't spit it out. So then I didn't know Anton at all. Henry I did, he was a good old Joe. Olaf was great for telling jokes. And my dad went, I was proud of that because he always took me fishing and left everybody else at home. And then, Chris, he was a good man too. And Gina was a wonderful aunt. And Alfred always, when we were kids, always brought us gum home from wherever he worked. He always had gum in his pocket. Always give us kids gum. It was really great. But I think they all, my dad, for taking us fishing was really great. But then I beat him one day. I went fishing with him many times. But that day I caught 8 northerns and 1 silver muskie and he got one fish. So maybe he gave all his training to me. But it hasn't worked lately though. But then I got one more. I got a Joe down here. He didn't want me to tell him about him. But Joseph came down and Dad and I went fishing with him. If you people ever want turtle meat, see Joseph. That's all he can catch. He caught a big turtle. But then that same day, I caught a fish too. It was that big. Little shiner minnow. And what did my dad do? Give it here, he says. Well, he put it on a hook and we roared across the lake to the other side and just slowed up a little bit. Bang! One big norther. He says there's got to be another one back there. Threw the same old dead big out there, nailed another one. So we went home to fish. So if you want turtle, see Joel.
Chris, as far as I can remember him, he worked a lot here and there, all over. He was quite a while in Portland before he passed away, and after he did pass away. He was married at the later years. There's not too many years he was married towards the last few years. Otherwise, he was a good old skate. I have to say that for Chris. He stayed down in El Paso there with Just Wood for quite a few years. Donald, how many years did he stay down there? What was that?
He was with us in New York Mill.
Yeah, yeah, he stayed down there when we were down there. He stayed in El Paso.
When he worked with us in New York Mill, I was perhaps 10 years old.
Say anything more about him? Only that he worked here and there all over, that he did. Yep. Thank you. I enjoyed meeting all my nice relatives. Man alive, that's worth $1 million.
Thank you. The Breden family, I assume will be represented by those who won the disagreement with Iris, and was speaking to a friend, and he said, well, how'd you come out of the battle? And he said, I had her on her hands and knees. He said, no fooling. Yeah, he said, she was looking under the bed yelling, come out here and fight like a man. Don Wood from Tampa.
Hi, cousins. Well, being rather unimaginative, I'm going to follow the book. The book said, where did Cena settle? Now, you didn't know Mom. She didn't settle anywhere, ever. She was flitting here and there, getting up, go and get a cup of coffee, go make a loaf of bread, whatever. Great person. The next question, what was Cena like as a child? Holy balls, I don't know what she was like as a child. That was my mother. But when we were young, she took care of us with everything she had. That was her reason for being there. Is there anything I remember most about Mom? Well, that's a hard question to answer. She knew all of the family. She was very concerned with all of the family, her 7 brothers. Just think of that, you young ladies, having 1 or 2 brothers you got to keep up with. How would you like to have 7 on a farm and a wood-burning stove and carrying in water from outdoors? 7 of them loves. Wow. Right. So anyway, she knew how to cook, how to take care of things, and she was never unable to help somebody somehow, any way she could. What was Mom's favorite song? Sing it to us. Mom's favorite song was, Donnie, don't do that. Donnie, don't do that. Don, don't do that. Don, stop it. Golly, that was the time to quit. If you didn't, you knew what was going to happen. Mom's favorite leisure time activity? I would have to say it was either knitting or crochet. More than anything else. And then there's other stories about Seymour. Well, I used to hear about those Canadians up there, what marvelous people they were. And this week I got to meet Ufta, Ishta, and Mo. By golly, they are marvelous people, and I've had a good time with them. I'm going to say, cuz, good night.
Osina descendants, I mean. Yeah.
Don't you feel important?
Now we head to Texas with the changing of a name. I'm to understand that when Alfred first went to Texas, he was introduced to his first large Texas ranch and first big talking Texan who said, well, I tell you, boy, I can get in my pickup in the morning and drive all day long, and by evening I'm still on my own land. And Alfred said, yeah, I had a pickup like that once too, but I got rid of it. The representative for Alfred Braden.
And see who was really going to do all the speaking this afternoon, but I guess you called my bluff. We're going to do pictures first?
No, later.
Oh, well, you guys know I need it. We went through the same kind of checklist this afternoon, but a lot of news stories came out, things that were new to me, and frankly, our family is a close call. You have to understand, my dad came down to El Paso during the war, trained at Fort Bliss, and that got him into the warmer climate. He started to really appreciate that. The one thing he said about North Dakota was, I'm never going to go back there and shovel snow again. So he was down at Fort Bliss and spent quite a bit of time at Zion Lutheran Church down there, the social group, and one of the nice young ladies invited him home to play pinochle. And so he came over to her house.
He came down to church.
You know, he came down to the church. And then sort of an argument arose out of that. And he wasn't quite sure what had happened, but what had happened is my aunt had invited him down to play pinochle, and her older sister stepped right in and took over that situation. So we learned two things. One, you can always attract a Norwegian with a pinochle game, and second, don't trust your older sister. Don't be late to church. Okay, you want to go? What else? Okay. Well, you want to talk? You were going to talk about some of these things.
Just later, he had a very sweet disposition, and you never had a fight with him. He would give you the shirt off of his back for anything he ever did. And as a young boy, he liked to trap, and he made all his spending money in North Dakota by trapping. And I know when we bought the cemetery, we had gophers. But Alfred knew how to take care of the gophers because he went out and trapped them. Yeah, they come in on the irrigation canals, and so he did that. And his favorite song was How Great Thou Art. And now Ida Liddell sang that at his funeral when she came down. And his favorite leisure time activities were fishing and baseball. And when the organized baseball came to El Paso, Alfred went out and picked his seat behind the catcher, and we had the box seats for the years that he lived. And we went as many as 14 nights in a row to see our baseball team. It was one of the things he felt he could do for El Paso. And we always had to have lutefisk. Jess would order the lutefisk, and we would have it in the freezer, and for any special occasion, we would have his lutefisk, and I'd have to make lefse for him. I still have the lefse grill.
Oh, we learned some other things.
What did you learn?
Well, about your honeymoon when you went up and spent 3 weeks. 3 weeks for their honeymoon, driving around all the national parks, and went to Zion and Grand Canyon and Bryce Canyon and all that. But I sort of got the impression they weren't paying attention, because we did that year after that to see it again. So, but one thing, Dad loved to travel, and we always traveled by car. And it seems to me that we spent 5 weeks every summer driving around the countryside and seeing the relatives. And I think we, during those years, saw more of the family than the rest of the family saw of each other. We put it that way. It was a big circuit, but it took us. We would come up, go to Chicago, and then come across to Park Rapids, and then come across to Waimea, and then go look at the national parks again, just so we could get it down.
Willard and Ella in Wisconsin.
Did I interrupt?
And I had a terrible time remembering all this. Yes.
See, when Alfred got out of the service, he had his...
Was to Alfred. Alfred looked at him and he said, "I've done the same, Yeri, but I did it on my own money."
Alfred had visited, we had been to every state of the Union except Pennsylvania at the time he died. That is, the continental states, not Alaska and Hawaii. But he had taken me to every state other than that.
I've been to Pennsylvania, and we didn't miss all that much. But I thought maybe we could also tell some of the stories on the other brothers that we visited during those summers. And they were all, uncles, older uncles to me, and there was young Olaf was running around. We sort of had a good time together. He used to harvest a lot of wheat, but in barley, but he also harvested a lot of crickets some seasons. We went to Siebert's house, and that was always exciting. It was an adventure. We went to that same outhouse there that you used to smoke your cigarettes in, and they had a Sears catalog there that was used for its original purpose. They had a hand separator for the cream, and all the milk was taken and separated and then put down in the cellar. I think went to town twice a week with pails of milk. And we had our weekly bath in the kitchen with the water that was heated on the wood stove. So, and what else did Siebert? Had about 20 head of cattle, I believe. Oh, well, Elaine can tell about the pliers. He had about 20 cows, and we'd go out to the fields and get them for the evening milking. And he'd always try to get me to sit as close to him as possible, learn how to do this. And then as soon as I was really concentrating, just kind of squirt one over there and make sure he got me good. He had a tremendous sense of humor, and he loved to chase Elaine around with pliers. Why don't you tell me?
That's okay. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Uncle Siebert, he wore all these coveralls, and he always had these pliers around, and he'd say, "Now if you don't behave, I'm going to get you." And the second he said that, I shut up. I never said another word. Tears might start rolling down my cheek, and he'd probably say, "I'd give you something to cry about," with these pliers there. You didn't mess with Uncle Siebert at all.
Well, those pliers were there for a specific purpose. He used to collect kids' ears, and he had a little paper bag. And if you weren't good, he'd just pull out your ear and put it in the bag. That's what it was for. And Uncle Jess and Aunt Sina, I think, they put a lot of miles on between El Paso and Waimea, and they sort of got into the import-export business. They got a taste of Mexican food, and they tried to get a taste of lutefisk down to El Paso. And they would pack up their car with crates and crates of jalapeno peppers and head north for the winter. And sell sell and give away the jalapeno peppers to all the relatives they could, and then they'd collect all the money they had, and they'd buy lutefisk and they'd take it down and sell it in El Paso. And so they did that season after season. You have some of these?
Show them every character.
I am the oldest granddaughter here.
Any other announcements? We did have some other crazy stories about the year of the blue snow in North Dakota and things like that. But we did start out by speaking Norwegian and having some of the kids do that. I'd like to have the children, since the words were mentioned, you probably should learn something more about Norwegian. This is for the little kids now. You from time to time will hear "uf ishta" is when he picks it up and brushes it on his pants. And "fida" is when he starts chewing it again. And with that Norwegian lesson, we'll close the banquet tonight.
Thank you very much for emceeing this banquet. Now tomorrow, yeah.
I think we all should stand up and give Elaine and Elma a big hand.
Okay, tomorrow there is church John. And then at 11 o'clock at where the Wyoming Bradens go to church, there will also be Lutheran church services, and we'll leave the motel here around 10. And then if you want to go to Catholic church, see Marcella Braden, we will meet out at the Braden Farm, Ranch, whatever y'all call it up here. At 1 o'clock we will be serving lunch. Come before then. Any other announcements?
Yes, there was also suggested somebody said we should.
Is this it?
Is this all?
Be autographing later.
Green lights on.
That's what you wanted, right?
I don't know what the Arden people
I know.
They don't understand it.
No.
No.
You might have to explain it to me.
I did, trying to get it into them. Did you hear me?
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Second one is yes. I need all this in You guys are
Is that good?
That's okay.
Oh,
When did you move here? When I grew up, I moved here.